Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Stay on Your Bike podcast. This is a really special one for me because this person on this week's podcast is a really good friend of mine. She's done so much for me back in the day when I was trying to race my bike and getting injured and stuff. And forever, I will be grateful to her for everything she's done for me and taking me in as a family member in her family home. With no further ado, I'd like to welcome Kathy Sessler onto the podcast. How are you doing, Kathy?
Thank you, Nigel. That's such a great introduction. And it's so meaningful to hear that because you've put into words what is in my heart and those bonds that we grow through the sport of mountain biking, through our experiences, transcend all time. And you are a family member.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
thank you. I'm really proud to be part of your family because
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
you and the girls. Um, but I mean, this podcast could go on for about a week because you've been involved in mountain biking for longer than most people that'll be even listening to this or doing mountain biking now. Um, but I know a lot of your history, but could we start off, please, with just explaining, what you did as a kid growing up with your brothers and how you got into biking and how that kind of translated into you becoming in the mountain bike industry?
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting that even as a young person, when you are doing something for fun, something you absolutely love to do, which was, well, in my case, when I was 11 and 12, my mom remarried and my stepfather was into dirt bikes and used to take us dirt bike riding. My mom had a Suzuki 90 that I would ride and I loved it. And then in 1971, I saw the movie premiere of On Any Sunday. And now that movie changed my life because we saw the kids in the movie riding their little bicycles, and BMX did not exist, like not as a name, it didn't exist then. And I was inspired somehow because of my love for the motorcycles. And two things. After seeing that movie, I said, right, I want to race in the Elsinore Grand Prix. That was one thing. And then I went home and I thought, okay, I'm going to make a track. There's two vacant lots down the street. I lived in Seal Beach, California. And I'm going to make a little track and put on little races. And, you couldn't go buy a BMX bike. Remember, this is in the pregnancy, not even the infancy of BMX. And so I would coerce my brothers to sometimes come and help me, but virtually the little track, I built all the jumps and dug the holes and made the flags and the paper plate number boards and things and put on these races for a period of months. And I was 13, I was 14 when I did that. And
Incredible.
you can see there's a clip of that. It's called Kathy Sessler, A Lesson in History. Nigel, when you were staying at my house I think it's probably been 2 decades now, you brought Mike Rose over and Alex Rankin. And as when any bike people are around my house, hey, do you want to see my bicycle movie? Because at that time where I was doing the bicycle movie, for some reason, my dad's 8mm movie camera, and I would take movies of this bicycle racing. And so I have about 20 minutes of original footage from that time frame. And it's been featured in Joe Kidd on a Stingray and in a Schwinn commercial, different things. It's quite historic footage, but you can see it. Mike Rose put it on. It's called like A Lesson in History. And then somebody's put it on YouTube. So you can put in Kathy Sessler, A Lesson in History, and you go see about 9 minutes of this video. And Alex Rankin put it on Sprung, I think it was Sprung 5, like as a bonus section.
Yeah.
Man, they loved it. They were in tears when I saw it. So basically, fast forward, over 50 years from that time, I'm still working with fun people in the dirt, in the rain, outdoors, with cameras around. And in that essence, that passionate, what I love doing just naturally then has turned into a lifelong career. And then that was the history for the love of the bicycles in the dirt. And then I got on my first mountain bike in 1989, and then that changed that.
But how, obviously, you're just talking about this as if it's a normal thing, but to at 13 years old, and obviously, I guess you were influenced with bikes and stuff with your dad and your brothers, but you've always been a girly, glamorous girl as well. You don't look like a typical tomboy, girl rolling around in the dirt like a lot of people, and I don't mean that in any disrespect to anybody. But how did you even get into knowing how to put a race on at 13 years old and building a track and stuff? Where did that come from?
I don't know, you just naturally, like, just there's a certain logistics about it, and somehow you get, well, I think at the time, because I enjoyed, motocross, and then you see we would get the, Cycle News, newspaper that was, popular at the time, and you would see race results, and you would see categories, expert, junior, whatever. So you had an idea of formatting for this kind of thing, just, absorbing it, and that's funny you say about, like, girly girl or whatever. That's funny because I people don't you don't really perceive yourself. So that's interesting to hear your perspective of that because I just feel like you, same as you, out there in the dirt, getting dirty, enjoying what we love to do, whether it's male, female, it transcends all age, all gender when you're out there doing what you passionately love to do. So yeah, I'm happy to hear I wasn't don't look like a typical tomboy, but I tell you what, I sure feel like one.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know you well, and you are, but yeah, it's just I think that's I think maybe nowadays with all the social media and Instagram and everything, I feel like there's more girls doing the extreme sports and also, looking glamorous and stuff. And I think, you were maybe one of the first ones to do that without needing to do it for Instagram and stuff. And maybe you started the trend.
Maybe I did. I mean, if I started doing, well, let's see, I had a lot of firsts in my life. Let's see, I was the first Maxis girl. I was the first intense pro rider.
Yeah,
I was the first at a lot of things. And being like, it's interesting to have a perspective of being older now and to look back because you don't know what a life-changing moment might be or what part of history you might be witnessing, such as the birth of BMX. Like I got to witness that, and then I got to witness the birth of mountain biking,
yeah,
and I've gotten to see so many things be birthed and grow. And yeah, the women these days are absolutely incredible, but all athletes these days, these incredible like Jackson Goldstone, Gracie Hemstreet, these kids that have grown up with these sports already so developed
yeah,
and the skills and the equipment already so developed to take the abilities of like the tricks and the what they're doing and the jumps and all this. It's already so elevated when they're just being born into it
yeah.
that the skill level is like absolutely incredible. And um, girls, boys, everybody is enjoying the sport for their sport, and it is remarkable what they're doing. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean it's nuts now. I mean, I guess like, back in the day, before I was doing it, and when you were starting out on the journey of racing mountain bikes, it was, most people that got into mountain bikes, I guess, had come either from a motorcycle background or a BMX background or even a road cycling background. And, with mountain bikes were just mountain bikes at first, weren't they? You did cross country on them, you did downhill on them, you did trials on them, you did jumping on them. And, like you'll know that the early bikes were not that great and they broke a lot and stuff. And obviously then, which we can talk about, you meeting Jeff Stieber at Intense, and he started making, as well as other people, bikes that were capable of what the riders from all these different disciplines were starting to do, bringing all these different skill sets into mountain biking. And then obviously now moving on to now, like you said, that the skills of the riders, both male and female, is just incredible. It's just gone so far beyond how it was back in the early mountain bike days, hasn't it?
Yeah, and it's interesting too because you think back and you think, well, what limits did the athletes go to in their performances? And they went all the way, to their absolute human limits. And you look back and you think about like say Tomac coming down Kamikaze or Jimmy Deaton or something, and they're absolutely going to the maximum. But you look back now and like 5-year-old could do that. It's weird.
It is, but I also reckon that, if you put Jackson Goldstone or Loic Bruni or Greg, maybe not Greg because he's been at it for so long, but some of these new guys onto one of those bikes that
There
Tomac,
you go. Put them back on the equipment. Yeah, then let's see what they could do. They would have a little rougher time.
especially
Yeah,
the speeds they were going down Kamikaze. Um,
yeah, yeah.
but so from growing up, at what age did you first jump into racing and competing? I mean, did you ever do BMX racing as a youngster or not?
No, no, I never, no, I was there at the infancy and never had anything to do with BMX. I did go race the Lake Elsinore Grand Prix. I raced in the last original Lake Elsinore Grand Prix in 1971.
Wow,
And
what bike did you use for that?
the Suzuki 90.
No,
Yeah, I was
amazing.
14. Something like this. Or no, it was 1972, the Elsinore Grand Prix. Anyway, yeah, a dear friend of mine, Mike Bell, he went on to be a Supercross star.
Yeah.
And I only knew him later in my teens, but I learned that he had also raced in the Elsinore Grand Prix. And I'm like, yeah, we only learned this as adults because we remain friends. I said, well, how did you do? And he's like, well, my dad pulled me off after 2 laps because it was too dangerous. I'm like, oh, I went 6 laps. So I actually have beaten Supercross star Mike Bell in a motorcycle
No
race.
way, that's amazing.
Just
Brilliant.
random tidbit of information there. But I at 14, like how was I going to go motocross racing? It was hard. And so I didn't do that. And then I did,
That one, what you wanted to do, really?
yeah, that's what I wanted to do. And then as a teenager in high school, I didn't go to football games or anything like that. I went to motocross races in Southern California. There was a lot. You could go to Carlsbad, Saddleback, Ascot, Irwindale, all this stuff. So that was my kind of, that thrill-seeking kind of adventure style. And so then so then Mike Bell started doing triathlons. So I did triathlons in my early 20s. And
Mhm.
then Mike Bell said like, oh, I'm doing this thing, Desert to the Sea. It's this mountain bike race. It's like this 100-mile mountain bike race. And so my husband Chuck and I went to watch where they were coming through, like sort of near Lake Elsinore, like crossing. And so they're crossing this road and they're taking off on a road. And this was probably like 1988 or something. And I thought that doesn't look fun. And then eventually, I had bought an old mountain bike from a friend for Chuck. And one day, where we live in Marietta, one day I'm like, so like seriously, if anybody had told me it's like riding motorcycles, I would have been on it immediately. But to
Yeah.
me, it just looked like some boring thing riding across the street. And anyway, I took this old bike and I rode it up in the hills. And then as soon as I turned around and started coming down and descending, I'm like, oh my God, this is the funnest thing I've ever done in my life. And I came home and I just said to my husband, this is what I'm doing now. I'm racing mountain bikes now. And this was 1989.
Oh, wait. That's,
Yeah, because it reminded me, it was so fun.
yeah.
And then, yeah, so my first race was in 1989. It was a cross country race. Some friends took me to it and they said, like, don't race beginner, your levels, like, so I raced the sport class and I was second. And
Brilliant.
then, yeah, the rest is history. I was particularly better at downhilling from the motorcycle background. And then I had 2 young children too. So, I don't have the physiology to be a cross country racer, but the skill level and that be more of like a sprinter type athletic build. Yeah, I started racing downhill and My first world championships was in 1992 in Bromont, Canada. And I was a silver medalist there. I remember there was an Italian woman there, and uh, I liked her bike. Like by this time, I had front suspension, which is quite progressive. I had Action Tech fork. It was 2¼ inches of travel,
And what
and I
bike?
thought that was pretty sweet. And I looked at this Italian girl. She's got something called rear suspension, front and rear suspension. We're like, wow, I wonder if that'll ever take off, you know? So
Yeah.
yeah, it did.
And
Yeah,
then
so I've seen a lot of changes, but
and
yeah.
what was that bike? Can you remember what bike that was? The hard.
Yeah, I was on a Kurtlow. Yeah. So basically it was a little cross country bike. Yeah, I still have that frame. And then the next year, 93 is when I met Jeff and got on Intense. Yeah.
Okay, so how tell us a bit about how that came about because that's
Yeah. So I live in Marietta, which is near Temecula. And at that time, Jeff lived in Lake Elsinore and was starting his cottage business. And there was a cross country race out in Temecula. And we had kind of noticed Jeff and the bikes or whatever. And then we're driving down the freeway and he's driving by with a bike on his car, like, pull over, like, we need to talk. And we started a conversation and I said, I need a bike for 93. And hey, would you sponsor me? And he said, let me, we exchanged addresses. He came over to my house and he's like, yeah, I'll sponsor you with the frame. And then he says, I'll have a bike for you. I'll come back in a week. And he came back a week later with my Intense Spider.
a week.
And
That's not a bad turnaround for a bike, is
oh,
it? Homemade
well,
bike.
I like to joke and say that might be the only Intense frame ever delivered on time, but that wouldn't really be fair. But and that's how that happened. And then went on to be like national veteran champion, gold, silver, bronze medalist in the veteran women category at world champs, and yeah,
Amazing.
3-time national champ. And then at the same time, like you would race your age group at the nationals and world champs, but then you race pro everywhere else. So my best pro finish was in 94 at Mammoth Kamikaze, where I was 10th. So mind you, I was like, 30, God knows, 37,
Going.
38, whatever, racing against Missy Jovi and
Yeah,
whatnot. And I had 2 small kids. So I
yeah.
called myself one fast mother. And
And you had a sticker and everything with that on, didn't you? Did Troy Lee make?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, Troy Lee made me a sticker and yeah, found a way to market myself. But just it was all about having fun, just following the drive and the passion that I had
Yeah.
to go out and like, why would a mother of 2 happily married think like, okay, I'm gonna travel around the world and hurl my body down the mountain at breakneck speeds? And like, I don't know. You're right. I mean, to me, it seems absolutely normal, but maybe it's not. I think it's normal. It's just not average.
Correct. And yeah, I think a lot of mothers that are, in that situation might think it's crazy, but for me and you and other like-minded people, it's just what you do, isn't it? You don't really think
Yeah,
about
it's
it
just
too
what
much,
you do.
what you want to do, and you only
Yeah,
live once here, so you've got to do some stuff that you want to do, haven't you?
absolutely. Yeah, you got to go after it. And then you've got to look at those things too. It's like, if I can't do this, like I want to do this so bad, like nothing's going to stand in my way. Those are the passions you want to follow. When you have those drives, follow those drives.
Yeah.
Yeah, follow that.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing. It's you've done incredible in those early days, and then how did you transition from doing all that racing to then working more with Intense? That was, I take it, the first kind of team that you were managing for, because even when I rode for them for a couple of years, you were always doing
Yeah,
for us and helping Jeff out with logistics and team managing at the races and stuff. And you just always had tons of energy and enthusiasm. And I've learned over the years, having somebody like that as part of your race program is just so beneficial and nice.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, like after my last race was in 1997, and then I did 3 years of stunt work for a TV show called Pacific Blue. So I was still doing things on bikes,
Yeah.
and then at the same time, was always my friend. We lived in the same region, and around the 2000s, he needed some help with team stuff. Darren Stockton had started the Intense Tire Systems team, and um, yeah, and Darren and I had been teammates on Maxis, and he asked, "Hey, do you want to come help the team?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So I was kind of always involved in like just helping out, like, "Hey, I'll just work for a bike or whatever, and help organize things." So I think it's like again, the sport has offered me so much expression to have my abilities and my passions come out, which is like also logistically, I think very logistically. I'm a mom. I used to have a catering business, so I can do food and just manage a lot of details and stuff. And then a team needs to
That's
have
why you're
this.
so good at doing the food. I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah, because like even when I was racing, it'd be like we'd be a group of friends going to the races, and they'd always call me Mommy Sissler, and I had Mommy Sessler's power pancakes and all this stuff. Just naturally, just cooking. I think I was put on this earth to cook and provide that. And then
What did it
yeah,
like?
yeah. So yeah, and so that was the time that you were racing, and then I was helping you guys out there when you were on Intense and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and obviously, a lot of the time, which included me, but many other athletes that always ended up staying at your house, yours and Chuck's house, and when the
Yeah.
girls were young, and you've had some right characters staying at your house between the races that wasn't part of your job. It's just the type of person you are that welcome people in and
Yeah, we had Chris Gavarek and Nathan Rennie often because the Aussies, they leave their country for the summer to go racing, and then racing for Intense or whatever, they were around, and yeah, they're just characters, and you just help people out,
yep.
and you get more extended family that you have and you keep through the years. Yeah, yeah, so that's super fun.
And
Yeah,
then that brings me on to when I got injured in 2002 when I flipping ripped my foot off and
yeah.
ended up staying at your house for I think about 9 weeks, um,
Mm.
which when you think back it's incredible that you let me stay at your house for 9 weeks and looked after me. I had quite a few things wrong with me at first. I don't know if you remember with I didn't even know a man could get thrush, and you know,
My daughter the other day, I mentioned your name, and she goes, "Oh, I remember saying, oh, my me plums are purple." Or
yep, they were on fire for sure. Um, and
yeah, and this was like you're in a situation. Was it Wisconsin you were in? I wasn't at the race, and then there's just a need. Like Nigel can't go home to the UK. His parents are getting on, and someone needs to look after him, and we're here, and my husband was a firefighter and he has a lot of time off, and so yeah, we brought you here, and we looked after you. You had a surgery, and your ankle was in really bad shape, and you couldn't do things for yourself, so we looked after you. I remember Chuck gave you your first bath. No, that's a good friend. This is why we were talking about family. Yes, you had swim trunks on, but yeah, it was cute trying to keep your foot out and then trying to clean you up. But this is where these yeah, just love for a fellow human, another
no,
brother.
I know, and I'll always be forever grateful for you guys for that. And apologies for I think I was in your hot tub and I made you actually wee on the floor because you were laughing at me that much when I couldn't get out of the hot tub.
Yeah, oh my goodness, I never had to do any sit-ups when I'm around you because the laughter was a complete ab workout. I was ripped. I had like washboard abs, so it was, there was a plus side.
Yeah, and I think I'm not sure if you did it intentionally, but what that night when you gave me some, because I couldn't go to the toilet because I was on all the pain meds, so you gave me some laxatives, and we were just
Yes.
watching a movie on the couch there, and then the next minute it felt like someone had stabbed me in the stomach, and I was trying to get to the guest bathroom in my in Chuck's board shorts with. I think I fell over about 3 times, and I do believe that you might have filmed me trying to get to the toilet.
Yeah, the laxatives, they started working,
It
and,
certainly
yeah.
did. Yeah,
Yeah, the laughter, oh my goodness gracious, and my girls remember that time so well and so fondly too, the
yeah,
fun we
and
had.
it was so cool. I remember, like, I think because I was stuck there, couldn't do a lot, and we got into watching SpongeBob because I guess they were into that at that age, and I just
Yeah.
I went somewhere and came back, and then they completely decorated all my room I was staying in with big SpongeBob pictures and everything. It was incredible.
Because I loved the way you said it at the time too, SpongeBob. We got
Never
a
even
kick.
heard of SpongeBob.
See, now you're saying SpongeBob, but you had a thicker accent as
Yeah,
SpongeBob.
yeah. I think it's
That
mellowed.
was so funny. We had a laugh. Yeah. But that's how mountain biking brings like-minded people together and creates lifelong relationships. And so you're definitely one of many, but definitely at the top of the list in our family.
Oh, well, thanks very much. And yeah,
Yeah.
I've always loved you coming, seeing you guys and staying there. And I've got really good friends with your husband Chuck, and you sent him off to visit me a few times. Poor fella came
Oh,
time it was pissing rain constantly, but don't think he ever came when it wasn't raining. But I think he had a good time anyway.
yeah. One of my favorite stories is he was going to visit you for a week, and he was traveling around his birthday time, so that was November 25th. I don't know what year it was, but um, I got a call at like 3 in the morning, and I mean, why even answered it? Like, whatever. And it's Chuck. He's calling from like the Frankfurt airport police station or something, and he's like, "Oh, I've missed my flight," and all this, and he tells me this tall tale about how he was going through airport security in Frankfurt, and his backpack kind of goes in the machine, and then it goes back, and all the alarms start going off and the lights, and then the airport police come and they're like, "Sir, come with us." And he's like, "What is going on?" And they examine his backpack, and I guess some weeks prior he had been with a friend of ours on some hunting trip, and Chuck's not a hunter, but he was carrying some ammunition for the friend. And of course, he emptied his backpack, but one stray bullet had lodged itself in the seam of his backpack. And this is what's now being discovered in Frankfurt airport security, which is interesting because he had gone through Los Angeles airport security without a problem. So it's quite interesting.
Yeah.
And so he was detained and had to fill out lots of paperwork to say, no, I'm not a terrorist. And eventually they helped him make it to another flight. And so, as I recall, I called you at like whatever time it was. Well, if it was 3 in the morning here, it wasn't a bad time for you. But like, Nigel, he's going to be on a different flight. He's going to be a little bit late. This is what happened. We were just laughing.
Yeah.
And as I recall, he showed up to see a sign say Chuckinator, as you had made for him instead of the Terminator. You had made him a sign to welcome him.
Yeah, brilliant fun, amazing. I remember that, and yeah, obviously, we like winding Chuck up, and he winds me up, and we quite happily take the piss out of each other, which is why our relationship's so good. Um,
Exactly.
and I don't think he still understands what I'm saying half the time, so it doesn't matter what I'm taking the piss out of him. He's just nodding and agreeing.
Well, that is the funniest part because when you were just out recently, that's exactly what I observed happening. Chuck just sat on the couch, and I can understand you because I've been, around these accents a bit more, and Chuck's just like going along with whatever you're saying, not answering the question. I'm like, he has no idea what Nigel just said. And so you and I would just start laughing, and he'd be just like, what's so funny? We're like, you don't even know what you're saying. And yeah, more strong abs after that visit again. For sure.
Oh, it was great to come and see you guys again and visit.
That
Um,
was really fun.
but so anyway, after let's go back a bit. After you know you were doing all the work for Intense and stuff, and then um, if I remember rightly, the Rob Roscott put the Santa Cruz Syndicate team together, and you
Yeah.
got the job to be the team manager, where you actually got paid and stuff. I hope in
Yeah.
the early days.
That
Uh,
happened, yeah, yeah, because, Darren had created Intense Tire Systems, and, we were on Santa Cruz frames, and so then Darren wasn't gonna do the team anymore, so Rob liked the idea of the team. And in 2004, he's like, "Hey, I wanna, still have the team,
mhm.
and would you like to be the team manager?" And I said, "Yes," and then, he said, yeah, we talked about, like, "What do you want?" And I said, "Rob, you can let me do what I want, when I want, how I want, and you can pay me whatever you want." And we had that deal for 16 years until Santa Cruz finally said, like, hey, we need a contract here. We need to make you an employee or something. But it was so nice to have such a honorable, like I always really respected that we were both doing it for the love and the respect of one another. Really
Yeah.
enjoyed the aspect about, yes, money came, but I wasn't doing it for the money. And then yeah, anyway, you can do that with Ross Kopp. He's just that kind of guy. He's amazing.
But obviously, there's a lot of teams that are different to that sort of ethos.
Well, yeah, pretty much all of them. I don't think anybody could have, would have, or ever have done it that way before. But see, this was what's so great about Rob is like he didn't try to mold people into something they are not. He picked good people and he
Yeah.
helped support them to be what they are. And
Yeah.
that was really the nature of how we built the syndicate.
Hmm.
And he and I saw it in the same manner, so he could release me to go do it because he knew his values were supported because they were my values as well,
Yeah.
and that we could develop what we did and not try and shift and change people just to let rat be rat. And um yeah, because I remember like, oh, we got this young kid, he wants to call himself rat. I mean, that's just weird. And it's like, well, it's just what he is, and you just let him be him. And then it is just that. And so that was really important, is just to let people be who they are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, the what you guys did with that team, and as well as the riders, the personalities you had on the team, which I think made Santa Cruz into the brand that it was, um, and made it like the coolest bike brand out there that people wanted to buy into. In my
Mhm.
opinion, it was the race team that did that. Obviously, the guy Rob and the guys at Santa Cruz started making some really nice obviously bikes that worked and they looked good and they were good, but the race team and all the characters on the team is what made Santa Cruz what it is, in my opinion. um
Yeah. I like to hear that because I certainly see it that way.
yeah.
And this is where also too authenticity just shines through, and that's what everything about it was authentic. And yeah, and then what it's doing for the brand is bringing that authenticity into the scope of the observer, who
Yeah.
then wants to appreciate the quality products and be a part of the authenticity, and then what we're creating, which was just like amazing. I mean, I don't think there ever has or ever will be again a team of that nature that was just so dynamic. It was very unique, and I'm so pleased to have been a part of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you were a lot more than a part of it. I think, if it wasn't for you, it wouldn't have been, anywhere near what it was. I mean,
Thank you.
the 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 work ethic that you have and how much you put into it, and then you can also party with the best of them. The energy that you've got while the race is going on, the energy you've got after the race, and then the day after is just it's incredible. I just don't know how you did it. Is
Thank you.
just Did you just enjoy every part of it?
Yeah, it is again just letting the energetics and the enthusiasm just shine through. And let's remember, we were winning a lot of races, so it's very easy to stay enthusiastic and have high energy when you're having so many successes. And yeah, we had a lot of dips and lulls and all this, but you don't really remember those. You
No.
don't.
No,
No.
obviously, it was really cool that, for a time there, Rob, it was like, the owner of Santa Cruz was coming and supporting you guys. You guys always, went had amazing events outside of the races that you did for the athletes, and it was kind of just the whole thing that you were doing made people want to be part of Santa Cruz. And I think if you and Rob hadn't have done that, I don't think the brand would have been anywhere near what it was, because as well as a race team and race results and bikes, you created like an amazing like more of a brand, like a brand that you want, that people want to buy into, and be a little tiny part of that, and I think I don't know,
Yeah.
like you say, is ever been done before, or will probably be done again, maybe.
Yeah, I reckon not. But that's really nice to hear because what we're talking about is people authentically expressing their values and their love, and other people finding that resonance for it and sharing that with us. So I'm really pleased to hear that you viewed it that way, and if you did, many people did, and that the expression of what we were putting out in the world had that kind of a effect into the world is a very positive thing. So I'm really pleased to hear that. Yeah.
Oh, you should. Well, I know you're proud of it, and you should be proud of what you've done there.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah, I still got like in the background, there's one of the team photos. Yeah.
and obviously you've had lots of different athletes that you've worked with on the team and stuff, and obviously now with your new team, but um have you had any favorites? Have you had any people riders that were easier to work with and ones that were difficult to work with, or were they all kind of just individuals and you
Oh
enjoy?
yeah. Oh yeah, man. Yeah, some of them were a lot of work.
Which ones were the
Oh,
most work, would you say?
oh my goodness gracious. Well, like Cameron Zink was a bit of work. He was a young kid, and we were trying to allow him his expression, but he was pretty young, but he was like absolutely amazing person, but he was also one that people were trying to constrain. So it was a balance to try and get him to be expressing himself. But he was a young kid and he was marching to the beat of his own drummer. It just was in conflict with some of the other the management, which was before the complete syndicate was going on. And
And bearing in mind that, if I correct me if I'm wrong, but you let him build some giant jumps on your property as well.
yeah, we built some big jumps out there. Yeah, that was Jamie Goldman.
Okay.
He came out. Yeah, and then Kirk Voorhees. Yeah, we had some massive like on-off box and all this kind of stuff so they could train. Yeah, I mean everybody is like, well, Kavarik back in the day too. He was a handful. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's just corralling Chris and trying to learn how to corral Chris. When the train's moving this way, and you're not going to get the train to turn around, but you need to get into the rental van, you try and find ways to do it. So I remember like, I was in Durango or somewhere, and finally get him into the rental van, and then, oh, great, got him, getting him home. And driving down the freeway, and all of a sudden the big side door comes open. And we're driving like 50 miles an hour down the highway, and you're like, dude, like, just stay in the car, please. You think you've got them. So, sort of managing and corralling and, watching the cats. And then, as far as favorites go, Greg has always been someone that I've gone on really well with, and we have like a really great friendship. So that doesn't necessarily mean he's a favorite. He's just someone that I've always genuinely gotten along incredibly well with, as well as Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we still have incredible friendships to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
Brilliant. And
Yeah.
so like, what would you, is there any years or any achievements that obviously the team got so many achievements, but is there any that really stand out as like the most, the thing, achievements that mean the most to you?
Yeah, one of the ones I refer to often is as a manager, I would be the only person in the world to have this perspective, would have been in Australia World Champs in 2009, where
Hmm.
Steve won the race and Greg was second.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting one because you could look at as like the crowning success, but yet it was also very emotionally charged because not only did I have my athlete have the biggest win of his career, I also had my athlete have the most devastating second place of
Yeah.
his career all
Hmm.
at once, like weird. And then to see what Greg had gone through that week, here we are in Australia, and he's away from home as you do, and his beloved grandmother had passed. So she had gone into the hospital that week and wasn't through, and then she passed, and he was devastated and so far from home. And I remember telling him, hey, this is just bike racing. This means nothing. Like, you want to get on a plane, think about it in the morning. I'll put you on a plane. You can get home and you can go be with your family. And he decided to stay and to race. And how he got through that week, um, I'll just never know. And so to see him lose world championships by 5/100ths of a second after going through that week
Yeah.
was very emotionally devastating for me to observe, as
Hmm.
well as Steve getting the world championship win, all within the same moments of one another. It was
Yeah.
a very interesting dynamic, both very successful, yet very emotionally,
Different.
wow. Yeah, that was very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. That. Yeah. When you put it like that, I can imagine. I mean, I was at that race with, that was one of the first years I was running the chain reaction team, and yeah, it was a great day for Steve to win, and it was super close in the race. Um, and so moving on through, through the years, and with Santa Cruz, and I've been through similar things. W- did the dynamics change much when Santa Cruz kind of sold out to the big corporate company that bought it? And I know Rob was still involved for a
Mhm.
while there, but did that change the team, the way the team worked in your role as a team manager?
Things started changing. Definitely Rob really tried to retain all the integrity of what he initiated with the team through all that. But the only constant is change. Nothing was ever going to stay the same. And so we watched things gradually change and just a natural progression. And we had rider change ups and it was going to be changing again. And um, yeah, Rob was less involved and um, yeah, in those final years, the magic was gone. The the real core value of like um what Rob and I expressed wasn't going to be continuing in the syndicate, like our expression, our choices, who we would have picked for writers or whatever. There were different people making those decisions, and not incorrectly. It's just that the time had passed for the reasons Rob and I expressed ourselves within the team and making choices had shifted. It had changed. Yeah.
And also, I guess it was a similar time, or maybe a little bit before that, but obviously in 2014, Josh had been on the team for a number of years. You guys brought him on through Steve as a junior and stuff. But
Mhm.
in 2014, which was a really competitive year, Aaron Gwynn was on the scene. had been doing amazing the year before that. Sam Hill was on our team, and he was coming back into form. There was Stevie Smith and a bunch of other, really fast guys, and Rat just looked like he was like cruising down the track, like in sections between, the gnarlier sections. He looked like he'd given up, and then he'd come down to the end, and he'd be like 2-3 seconds up on everyone, and it just looked so easy for him to be winning that year. And then obviously, what was going on in the team then? Was that difficult for, for Greg and the other riders on the team, for Rat to just be coming up and winning so easily, and looking like he wasn't even trying?
Yeah, I don't remember it being I mean, I'm not Greg or Steve, but I don't remember seeing expressions of it, more just happy, supportive for Josh doing so well. Um yeah, and Josh coming into his own, and just, I just love this, like, his expression on a bike is just so beautiful, and as his expression in life. And he was being met with great success, and it was well supported and observed from all sides. I didn't see any jealousies or anything like this, because still Steve and Greg were also being still successful at the same time as well. And yeah, I think there was just more appreciation for Josh hitting some stride and reaching his potential.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think. But I don't know what was really going inside the minds of those athletes, but it's
yeah.
from a team aspect of, I don't
Uh-huh.
remember any conflicts.
Cool. And then obviously that year, Josh was at the peak of his, racing career, and then he got that foot injury in half yell.
Yeah.
And that obviously it was a big injury, and any big injury affects different riders differently. But he just the year after, he just didn't seem to have the same mindset. And what do you think that was? Do you think it was the injury, or do you think it was just he just done what he wanted to do? And with Josh, it's like maybe it's not the be all and end all.
Yeah, I think the way you even phrase the question is really indicative of your understanding of Josh's nature as a human and as a racer. And um, you can look at that in so many ways, but I think being thrust into the expectations of that high level of performance and achieving it, and then having that devastating injury, um, you, I don't know what went through Josh's own psyche, but observationally, there's a becomes a different desire for maybe what's important and how you want to express your heart. And I don't think he was able to express what was fully inside him within the scope of World Cup racing. That's what I think. And I remember, like, in subsequent year, when he was going to be retiring from the racing, um, it he knew it was going to happen, and we had many discussions like, hey, you've got to follow your heart and you've got to be honest and true. But to I think to be racing at that kind of a level, you have to want it so badly, more than anything else in the world. And I don't think that was so important for him.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so.
What did the powers that be at Santa Cruz think of that? Did they try and talk him around? Because, I think Josh at that time, how he was riding, and how he, how effortless and amazing he made bike riding look. Obviously, that was a big part of, making Santa Cruz such a cool brand. So were they worried about that, or did they just sort of go along with what he wanted to do?
Yeah, I don't remember exact details of what went on inside Santa Cruz, more from Rob's perspective, that Rob is always going to support the rider in whatever they choose to do. So Rob would have been supported and was supportive of whatever choice Josh was going to make, and would help him out lovingly and gracefully. Yeah, as he made that transition.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember sitting with Josh at Mount St. Anne when we were talking about what new riders we were going to bring in, and then Josh was going to be leaving, and it's quite emotional because, you know, I looked after Josh for so long, but then also recognizing that the fire in his heart for winning races wasn't there, and that's okay, and to really recognize that and appreciate that, and just let him know he's loved no matter what choice he makes. And you know what was so great in Leger, I hadn't seen Josh for years, and I saw Josh and Sylvester and Jesse for the first time in years. It was so touching for me. Um, he came into the Norco pit and Greg was there, and I'm like, oh, you guys, this is just like, for me, this was just so joyous because it instantly, you have that heart connection that you had for all those years. And I had someone take a photo of us and stuff, and it just felt so good and so nice. And this is where, like, people come in and out of your life, and maybe, you know, Josh hasn't been my rider for years yet. The impressions and the bond that we have is like the one we have with you as well, Nigel. It transcends time,
Yeah,
and it was very special to see him. I was very grateful to see him,
yeah,
very proud of him, very, very beautiful. Such a nice man.
yeah. He is. He's a lovely kid, and well, he's a lovely adult now, and
I know, I know.
he's one of a kind, and it's lovely to
And
see.
he's true to that, which is amazing. He's such a beacon for authenticity.
Hmm.
Josh is.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
brilliant. And then, so do you, obviously, you know, you ran the team so successfully for so long, and then
Mhm.
what kind of happened? If do you want to talk about it towards the end?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that I don't know about what happened, to be quite honest. Just going along, and um, they were going into year were we in? We had done 2020 and 2021,
So
and
COVID year was a bit of a mess, wasn't it? With you know only so many races you could go to.
yeah, and we still did it very successfully, and still had really good success. And that fall, there was a lot of interesting changes going on in the world at the time, and they were bringing on new athletes and rechanging, you know, changing up structure, and then uh, in early December, I had a call saying that they were going to change the structure of the team, and they weren't going to have team management in the same way that they had done it before. They wanted to bring it more in-house. And so they eliminated my position. And they looked after me, they took care of me and stuff. But yeah, it was a bit surprising and shifting and changing. And I accepted it and thought, okay, well, now I can take a big long rest.
I mean, deservedly so, but did you want
Yeah,
the rest at that point?
I
You know,
wasn't planning on it. I wasn't planning for it, but the powers that be um, saw things that I don't know. Again, I don't know. I talked to somebody recently from who probably knows a lot more about it than I do, and what they observed maybe was like, I don't know, surprising.
and
And so
when you say the powers that be, like who are these powers that be?
the higher ups in the organization of Santa Cruz and or Pond, whoever made the decisions to uh, make those changes in the team structure. So
And they
yeah.
you know, to make those decisions, you would hope that they they followed the racing as much as we do. They are invested in the
Mhm.
race in as much as we do, but I imagine they're not, you know.
I don't know, and like, who knows? Maybe they didn't see the value in what I did, or they just wanted to change it up and do it in a different way. I don't know, but then they have done, and so one can argue what do you prefer? So yeah, it's a matter of preference. But now I have this incredible, wonderful opportunity. I mean, I always thought, well, you know, something will come my way. I'm not going to go out seeking, but if something comes, and there was a couple of times, was going to do a team with Martin Whiteley, and at the last minute it fell through. And so, and then I was also going to do with GT, and then that fell, that shifted and didn't happen. And so, yeah, the fit wasn't just quite right. And so then last November, and then even a couple of years in those years, Greg had always been trying to put together a team. He'd been wanting to express himself in a way where high performance is what Greg's about, and product development and the engineering and this type of thing, and things that he tried to do in Santa Cruz many, many times, but kind of got thwarted or not supported in that nature. And there was yeah, for those couple of years, he's like, oh, I'm working on maybe a deal with this team. And, if this happens, would you like to be a part of? And I'm like, yep, of course. And then that wouldn't come through. And that happened a couple of times. And so November of last year, I got a call from Greg, and, he could barely get the words out of his mouth when I said yes. Yeah, it took a few years to sort this one out. But this has probably just been what's just been percolating all along, that out in the horizon was this team that was developing, that was going to be high performance with incredible engineers, incredible opportunity, and something I could almost call it like Greg's like little dream bubble been floating out around in the ethers. And it just took a few years for it to shake down into the reality of to make it happen. And it all happened very, very fast. Just in November, and Gwen Van Lingen at Norco, and Sean Sullivan to see this opportunity and jump on it and make that happen so fast. It was absolutely amazing. The support they've given us is incredible. And Greg is able to realize the potential he had for that engineering and the development and the team development and the aspects also of the team. He's brought in Alan Milway and his high level performance abilities with the athlete, and then the high level performance of the engineering, the development there is Greg's dream. And then of course he needed someone to run the show and to do all the cooking. And so that's my role, and I'm loving it, every minute of it. And all the other athletes on the team were just absolutely incredible too. So yeah, we're having a good time.
Well, yeah, it's an amazing new program, and they're really lucky to have you. That was one of the things I was thinking. What when you left the syndicate team, I bet they didn't realize how much you did for them until you were gone. And I can,
I know Rob had told them, when, if you get rid of her, you're gonna have to have at least two people to replace her. And in the end, I heard that 4 different people took my job. Yeah.
sure didn't do it anywhere near as good as you did it. I mean,
Oh, thank you. I agree, but
yeah, but the amount of effort you put in, and they always had all the amazing food and ready, and they never needed to wait or ask, or it's you couldn't ask for any more than what you did for them. So,
Oh,
uh,
thank you.
I don't wish anybody any bad in the sport, but I hope they realised how much you did for them when you were gone. I'm sure they did.
Yeah. Well, somebody obviously does, and Greg obviously knew the value and the importance, and that's why he's asked me to come back. So that's a nice respect there. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about, because you must know Greg as a person and an athlete
Yeah.
more than most people. Like, what is different about Greg for him? Obviously, he's an incredible bike rider. He was incredible when I first met him back in 1999, when I first time I came and raced in America, in the US, on an
Mhm.
intense bike. And I met Greg that year when he was being sort of managed by Martin Whiteley, but he wasn't really on a team. And we
Mhm.
knew straight away how good a bike rider he was, and he was a funny kid, and he was quite grown up in some ways for his age. But what's different about Greg that he's still able to be at that level all these years later, and with all the different things that have happened to him
Yeah.
his whole career? Is it
Yeah.
just his drive, or what is it?
Well, I like that you said when you first met him in 1999, you said he was a funny kid. And I think that's really significant because I don't think he's viewed as a funny person.
Really?
I know he was managed in many years and had a persona to the general public that he's like this professional and yada 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 and this kind of slick appearance and all this kind of stuff. Greg is the funniest guy I know. And I'm so glad that you saw that in him as a young man because he's still one of the funniest people ever. And
Well,
then to answer, huh?
just a funny story. I don't know if he ever told it to you, but when I first met him that year, he had a big. Obviously, he's from South Africa, and I didn't know a lot about South Africa, other than he had these big, three big scars on his knee, I think. And
Mm.
I said, how did you get that? And I think he was probably what 18 or 19, and I was in about 26, 27, something like that. So, it's really a kid talking to a more grown up person. And
Mhm.
he said, "Yeah, I've got a pet tiger." And the tiger scratched me. And I was like, "Really? Do they have pet tigers in?" Because I didn't know, but that was the first thing he told me. Like he had a pet tiger that's scratched.
That's hilarious.
Whereas obviously he just slipped his pedals and flipping cut his leg. But yeah, that was one of
Yeah,
the.
I've got a few tiger marks myself. That's hilarious, and that does sound like Greg. He is so funny. Um, yeah. So Greg's career is very well documented as being filled with success, and um, I think, and there's times too where he said, one time when Marshy was on the team and Marshy and I, and he says, if it wasn't for you two, I think I would have quit. I don't think
Right.
I could have continued doing this because, being from South Africa and they would leave their home for 6 months out of the year. And, he was doing it since he was a kid
Yeah.
and that takes a really great strain. So he's not like superhuman. Um, he is very sensing and feeling. I know a lot of people don't understand him and they think he's an asshole, and maybe that's how they perceive him toward them. But Greg is a really loving person and he's very kind and he can be sarcastic, so maybe some people get like that side of it, but he's hilarious and he's the life of the party, loves to have fun. He brings a really great enthusiasm and a really uplifted um what do you want to say, presence into any room he walks into. And I really enjoy that part about him. The thing that I think creates his success on the track, obviously, he has great skills. He grew up on motocross, and I think a lot of crossover, some of those early skills are formed then, obviously. And there comes a drive like, why are you so hungry? Why you still have that fire? Josh lost that in his heart. Greg hasn't lost that in his heart. How? I do not know. I don't know. But yeah, I was saying just watching Netflix, watching Beckham series. And this is something you're seeing in the same thing. He hasn't lost the heart. That's what that drive is that compels you to go for so long. And this is what Greg has. And one of the greatest strengths Greg has is what he's able to do with his mind. Now, I don't know what goes on between his ears, but he has the strength of mind to lift his game, to bring things, to level things up, and put together just miracles.
Mm.
And yeah, so his success and longevity, I think, is owed to skills, uh, natural physical gifts, passion from his heart, and the strength of his mind. And probably the strength of his mind, probably trumping almost all of those things.
I'd say it'd have to. I mean, going back to the early years, and I think it's for the younger riders that he's racing against now. They wouldn't have even been involved
Born.
or watching the sport. When Greg was on, the global team that Martin Whiteley
Right.
ran. Animal Orange before that, but Greg was doing things on the track that no one else was doing at a certain race. I remember a certain
Mm,
incident in Vail, Colorado, that had one of the most technical tracks I ever raced, and Greg
yeah.
was doing this gap near the bottom of the track that not any other person in the race was doing, and he used to be, as a young kid, he'd be at the dirt jumps as well as doing well at the World Cups, doing backflips and all the stuff that the modern kids are doing now. But he was definitely ahead of his time on all that stuff, I think.
I think, yeah, definitely, definitely. I love something. There's an old clip of him when he was a kid going to the like county fair and jumping his motorcycle over a bunch of cars like Evel Knievel. So I mean, even what's a little kid like that doing like that for?
Yeah,
I don't know. It's just you just take like these ideas and you're like, I'm gonna go do that. But to him, it's natural and normal.
yeah, yeah.
But it's extraordinary,
It
extraordinary.
is.
Mm,
And
yeah.
if there'll ever be anybody that'll have the longevity that Greg has had in the sport of downhill, because it is brutal. There's a lot of injuries. There's so much pressure. You're not racing anyone else. Like the pressure to just do one race run on the weekend is it takes a lot of toll and a lot of mental stress, I think, than even like motocross. At least in motocross, you get on the start line and then you're racing other people. So, the drive comes to beat those people. But when you're just trying to beat the clock week in, week out, all the stress that goes with that is phenomenal that he's done it for so long.
Yeah, I agree. And we're coming up to where he's going to transition from being a racer into solely a team director, because he is the director of the Norco team now, and he will remain so for many years. So we're looking at, some of the last few races that he has coming up.
Which,
Um,
which for me and you is it's cool and he deserves that, but it's a little bit sad because he's always been there. Um,
Yeah, I think it's like I even see this is my sense, this is my feeling. Like even if they say, like I was talking to Gwen the other day and she's like, "Oh, Mount St. Anne, we're gonna do something to celebrate Greg." Like of his retirement. I'm like, I wouldn't call it a retirement myself because I really don't, I mean, I don't think it would be the last race he would ever do.
yeah.
Honestly, I think next year would come and he'd be like, "Okay, I got to do this one race." I don't just maybe a completion of like racing every single race and that kind of thing. Maybe possibly this is the last year for that. Good chance of that, but I don't think it would be the last time we'd see him on a track. I just don't know how he could do it, or
Um,
actually why he would do it, because he still is really good. So,
well,
we'll just see what the future unfolds for him. But there will definitely a big we'll be celebrating Greg's career in Mount St. Anne for sure.
brilliant. And well, I mean, tell us a little bit about. Obviously, he's had last couple of years. He's had a tough couple of years racing wise with injuries and things that were going on with the old team, and then a new team is always hard to sort everything out at first, and then to just smash out a podium in Leger was incredible. And I'm sure some people are saying the weather's different and all that, but from my perspective, when Greg came down first, the track was super slick, and it
Yeah,
got
it wasn't, yeah, yes, the track was different. The track was constantly changing. That is not to say that Greg had an easy track, because his track was shit. Did you see all the women falling down before then he went on this track and it looked like it was like, is this the same thing they were just riding? The track he was on in no way, shape, or form was easier than the later riders. The
no,
track was different, yes, but with those changes also come um, well, we race all the time. And so, like once more water comes and then it starts like, this, and then you can find maybe a little bit some more of traction. Doesn't mean it was easy later either.
no, no.
It was just hard for all of them.
You'll know,
Uh,
it was unknown to every single rider what the
yeah,
conditions were like because of they all practiced in the dry. So
that's
Greg,
right.
Greg's skill came through there on reading how he could push, and I watched his run, and he had a few slip outs, and then he
Yeah,
recovered and was able to gauge his pace to get down without crashing. And then a lot of the other riders that have been getting better results lately than him didn't know how to find that limit, other than Amory and Andreas. So
yeah.
yeah, you can't take anything away from that. But how he must have been ecstatic, and you guys must have been ecstatic with that result. I saw his face on the podium and in front of the crowd, and it was amazing to see.
Yeah, well, and about that run, Greg very openly acknowledges that Alan Milway gave him the information to help him in a section. Alan, it's on one of our team videos where Alan was looking and watching what's going on with the women, and he knew what Greg's line was through this tricky section, and it was a higher line, and Alan's like, that line's unrideable, and that's Greg's line. Do I call up? Yep, I got to call up. And so I guess apparently it went like this. So they're in the tent warming up, and Tom's like, Greg, come here. And Greg's like, what? No, 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 come here, come out of the tent. You got to talk to Alan. And Alan's like, Greg, you got to go low, low on this part. And Greg's like, okay.
Yeah, I saw
And
that.
what he did, because he, like if he had ridden his practice line and stuff, it wouldn't have worked. And so the great team effort, like that was really massive and very well appreciated by Greg publicly. And he's like, this definitely was a team effort. So yes, to watch that unfold, and it's like, I'm like, bitches, we're back. Like, this is like, this is a little more of what I'm accustomed to here. Okay. I'm just saying, it's been pretty fucking boring here. Sorry, disrespect to the others, but our riders were getting hurt right and left. Greg, the very first race, it was devastating. And how gratifying. It's like, hey, hats off to Thomas Sendell, our videographer, for making the journey of the Norco team absolutely beautiful every episode, telling the story as it unfolded. And it's just so real. And then to watch this turn of events to say, yes, at the end of the day, a team is measured by their race result on some metric, 100%. And so how wonderful now that Greg has achieved that third place. And for me, watching was absolutely amazing. I was there with his wife, Sarah, and we couldn't get to where we needed to be. So that, all this. And so I had said to one of the guys managing like the area behind the finish, I said, look, if Greg's going to get on the podium, I need to get his wife back here. And can you help? And he's like, yeah, I'll help you. And I said, and then if he wins, like, there was that chance you're like, oh my God, this could hold. But to watch that unfold and then to have it at that venue with all those fans,
Yeah.
the legions of French with all their colorful smoke bombs and all the chainsaws and that sea of humanity at the foot of that hot seat where the three riders just dove into the crowd. Like, how brilliant. Like,
Oh,
how many more opportunities is Greg going to have a result like a podium result and then in the venue? Like, let's just say some of the venues are lackluster when it comes to the expression of the fans in Leger. So how beautiful. I just have the chills right now just thinking back on it. And I just that and observed it thinking, wow, this is really special, so special. And he was so happy, so happy. And he
and,
thought, maybe that day would never come again where he would be on the podium. He was so proud. Yeah, it was beautiful. I
yeah,
was very, very pleased to be a part of it. To be a part about that was the thing. I always said I wanted to take Greg to the end of his career, and then we had that 2-year lapse in the syndicate, and all of that hurt him too.
yeah,
He had those challenging years, and he wasn't able to express himself with the bike development. And he had so many like different mechanical problems and issues that you only get so many opportunities to get to the starting line. And then when they're thwarted with flat tires or mechanicals, it's just like, wow, this is just like wasted opportunities. And he had a lot of that going on.
yeah.
And you know, uh
That takes a toll on you, mentally as well. Even though
yeah,
it's not your fault, you start doubting yourself and everything, that lets lets you achieve them results that he's got. So to come
Yes,
back,
and through that to maintain your fitness level and your skill level in spite of all those things is very, very difficult. And he does that though. He does do that.
well,
Yeah, which is amazing.
you know, I've dealt with lots of athletes as well, and just Greg's professionalism for his job is
Yeah,
you know, in my opinion, like right up there with the best of them. You know, you never see him
I agree.
doesn't look, you never see him where he doesn't look ready for his job at hand, and you know, just to maintain that fitness and the strength and the stamina that you've got to do to race at that level, and then to compete with all these young people that are coming up all the time. You know, there's young people have
Mhm.
come up. He's they've beaten him, then he's beaten them again, then they've gone away, and somebody else has come, and just to maintain that um professionalism for all those years is incredible.
Yeah, I agree. And I've watched it. And then it's like you can have all the preparation and then like at Fort William, I mean, he came into that very fit, very well prepared, everything you just talked about. And then he had those two crashes that really hurt his shoulder. So that was unfortunate. But I mean, the last few races, I haven't even heard him talk about his shoulder. He's just like carrying on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
he's quite remarkable. There, it definitely is. And watching the Beckham series, I'm like, oh yes, I see this the phenomenon that we're discussing that Greg has, and you can see it in Beckham. It's quite a unique thing, and it's about someone who can carry along with the professionalism at that high level for such a long time.
yeah.
Yeah, very interesting story. Mm.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, I hope. Obviously, I've watched another one that's quite that reminds me of Greg a bit, and that's Mark Cavendish's documentary. Um,
Wow.
that's a really good one to see, and you know, he had a lull, and then he had such a close call last year to win the most you know, tour stages ever, and then he just missed out last year, and then he broke his collarbone the day after, and then you know, he's come back again this year when nobody thought he might, and he got that 35th stage win, and he reminds me of Greg a lot.
Yes, me as well. Yeah, just when you think they're aging, they're injured, they're down and out, and that the stars align again, and there they are in the race, and
Yeah,
having an achievement like that, it's remarkable.
it is.
Yeah.
And so, um, with the new team, if you know, if and when Greg does decide to step back from racing at the World Cup level, um,
Mhm.
are you going to continue with the team and working with Greg, and then and whose decision will it be to bring on the new riders to, you know, to keep your team at the highest level?
Yeah, well, Greg is the team director, and everybody is selected from Greg, and so he will be the one to be selecting the riders and advancing the team in his vision. I would love to be a part of it as long as yeah, as long as I'm healthy and able to do so and wanted and needed. And because I still enjoy it very, very much, and I'm really grateful to be back and be a part of it. So, but yeah, Greg will be developing the team further
Yeah.
and in the years to come. Yeah, and so yeah.
And you know, has he got to the point where he's quite excited about that,
Oh
and
yeah, he's very excited about it. Yeah, he's very passionate about it. Yeah. And working with the riders we have with Kirk and Gracie and Lucas and yeah, he's involved and very heartfelt and engaged in it very much so. Yeah.
brilliant. And I
Yeah.
mean, does he discuss that with you? Does he say which, you know, which riders would you
Yeah.
like to pick and stuff like that?
Well, he will say like, "Oh, so and so stopped by the pit today. Oh, so and so's fishing around. Oh, maybe we kind of go this direction or that direction." But it's all going to evolve.
Yeah,
Yeah, younger riders, do we go for junior and like
yeah,
develop them or and then also there's going to be things changing with potentially with the World Cup formatting and stuff with Warner Brothers. So we'll have to see how that goes because that also will shape the nature of how a team looks based on their requirements.
And what are your thoughts on the way it's going, Kathy? Because there's been a few changes within the sport. They've we've chatted about it
Mm,
ourselves. They've gone down to only 30 elite men to the
mm.
televised finals, and I've heard rumors. I probably don't know as much as you, but rumors about really big team costs just to register the team next year, and more changes again. It seems to me that they're making it kind of modeling the World Cup to be more of a TV show. How do you think that's going, and what's your opinion on all that?
I can only speak to what I'm observing, and I don't have the knowledge about all the inner workings from all sides. So I'll remain open to appreciate everybody trying to keep the sport going, keep it alive, keep, whatever with modern times, with television, whatever, all these things that I don't know internally about. Um, Being away from the sport for a couple years and watching from a racing perspective, my opinion is that they are the sport is being changed in the structure of the execution of it during race week to fit a television show. I'm not a big fan of observing that, but that's my observation. I'm not a big fan of seeing only 30 men and 10 women into the finals. I'm not a big fan of that. I understand that's for television, so that is changing the sport for television. So I think it's probably fair assessment and observation to say that is what's being done. Right, wrong, good, bad. It just is this. So um, I've heard things about potential changes for next year. Until those changes are actually made, I don't know if they'll happen. Yeah, I understand it would be like an increase in cost, but right now, like it's already cost a hell of a lot to go racing. And yeah, I think caution has to be taken by the people making these steps. And I have talked to Chris Ball about it a little bit, and he seems keenly aware of understanding so many aspects and different sides of it all. And um, we'll see where it goes. But I had said to him, like, whatever rules or structures takes place, there's going to be a positive and a negative, and there's going to be fine. We'll have to find a way to work within the setup, the rules, until then we say, oh, that doesn't work, and it changes and shifts. So I see a lot of these kinds of changes coming. Um, I think um, I don't like it when you've got all these teams with all the big expense that are providing the show, and then if you don't have a rider who's in the final on Sunday, then you just you've got this big investment to be there and you're not participating in the event. I think that's kind of like a missed opportunity, but then it's being squeezed out for the television show. So um, we'll see what unfolds. I think the caution would be to make sure that you don't reduce it down to something that could collapse like a house of cards very easily. And I could easily see that happening.
Yeah,
So I think great respect, observation, and caution needs to be used moving forward. But I do understand some of the reasonings for these changes is that there's a lot of teams, like way too many teams, and you can't just let everybody come race, and then the venues can't hold everybody. And it's not just because of the big trucks. The big trucks have to be big to legally move all the equipment.
yeah,
Um, so it isn't like we've developed these big trucks and things to be a big dog and pony show for visuals or to look like F1. That's not the reason for it. The reason is a very practical, necessary, legal reason to move our equipment and to support a team. But then it's become so big that a lot of the venues can't contain everything. So I understand there's a tricky balance to try and navigate all of it. I think Chris is navigating it with great respect and observation for everything. And so we'll see what decisions are made. But as far as I know, no changes have been made yet to what we're currently seeing, but that probably it's coming. So we'll just have to respond when we see whatever shifts come our way.
yeah. And there's a few rumors to me that we've been asking for for a long time, really, is a few more races in the World Cup circuit. Obviously, if you do add a few more races in, that is obviously a lot more money for the teams are going to need
Right, yeah,
to pay to
you
get to
gotta be careful.
However, a World Series with only 6 or 7 rounds isn't, compared to other sports and stuff, isn't huge. So, in one respect, I think it's better to have a few more rounds. But then in the current climate, it's hard to get the budget to do that. Do you think? Do you think with the it's when I first started racing back in the late 90s that it was live on Eurosport. I'd go around.
Right, I remember.
Yeah, I'd go around
That's
to my mate's house. We didn't have Sky TV at our house, but I'd go around to my mates and we'd watch the racing, and that's what made me want to go and do a World Cup. Um,
right,
so the race here was sponsored by the Grundig. We used to call them the Grundigs. We didn't even call them the World Cups. Uh,
right, right.
then it was sponsored by Mercedes, and even the Duel was had its own sponsor with Swatch watches and stuff.
That's
Um,
right. It's huge. It was big. All of it was so big. The sport was booming.
yeah, I mean, there was the Volvo Cannondale team.
Yeah,
There was some big budget, well-paid riders, and there is
yes,
now as well. But it seems to be at the moment the budgets are coming from the inside the mountain bike industry, and which is struggling at the
right.
moment. Do you think Eurosport and what the ESO are doing, do you think that will bring those big outside sponsors back in? Do you see that happening?
Well, I guess one would ask, have they been doing this for a couple years now? Since I was gone, they've made these shifts. Have you seen outside sponsors coming in yet?
I've
Well, then I guess that's the answer.
And why do you think that is?
Well, people are going to put in money where they're going to get an investment or a return back on it, aren't they? So if it's not coming in, then there must be something not saleable about it. I don't know. I mean, that's not my area of expertise, but if it was meant to be doing that and we're not seeing it happen, then um,
Yeah.
yeah, something's got to change maybe to draw that in.
Yeah. But I think the way they're going with the TV and the model, if that doesn't work, then and it doesn't start bringing the outside sponsors in to pay for the teams,
Yeah.
in my opinion, I don't know what yours are. A team costs so much money, and the big teams and the big riders are what makes it so exciting and what actually makes the races possible. So for the teams to have to pay a lot of money to actually come and race in the event, which makes the event, doesn't make any sense to me. That it to me,
No, because it's like the bird and the chicken and the egg, like, what comes first? And, without this, you don't have that. And without that, you don't have that. So, yeah, without the writers, I mean, to me, what I could say is just observationally, the format and what I hear about coming, it feels restrictive. It feels constrained. It doesn't feel expansive to me. This is just the way it feels to me. When you talk about the Grundig days and all that, that was a very expensive feeling. It felt, you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
like this.
yeah,
Right now it feels contracted, and it feels like they're trying to contract it more. And this is how it feels to me.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that go along with mountain biking. Just as an example, in the UK, and I'm sure it's similar, but a different brand in the States. But literally everybody that goes mountain biking in the UK seems to have a VW Transporter van, with a pop top roof, and that's
Uh-huh.
you have a cool bike and you have a cool van. Why is VW Transporter not the sponsor of the Downhill World Cup, for instance? That's just an example that I can think of. Uh,
Yeah.
are these the marketing people that must be involved in the sport? Are they going after surely they're going after the type of outside industry sponsors that relate to mountain biking?
One would assume. And if they are, why aren't they coming in?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've been involved in it for so long too, and to understand and to recognize that sponsorship opportunity, but to see, but it's like, has it not through all these years kind of always been this way? That the sport has always been hard to bring in outside sponsorship. When you talk about Volvo Cannondale and all that, that was a time where they did get an outside sponsor in. But you could probably name those times on one hand where you had these outside sponsors coming in.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
similar era, that I don't know for sure, but the Chevy trucks and sponsored the GT team, when Steve rode for that,
Right.
Mike
Yeah.
King, all those big names. And I was told, I don't know for sure, but the GT team actually made money from its sponsors. It didn't cost them anything because they had that much
Wow.
outside income come in that it paid for the team and there was money left over.
That could well be because that was also a time where mountain biking as a sport was absolutely booming, and particularly in America. So I would find that statement could be very plausible, but I don't know it to be true, but it could well be.
And maybe it was because it was, a more up and coming sport. So these outside sponsors thought, well, we need to be part of this because it's on the rise. But
Right, right.
pretty sure nowadays there's way more people have a mountain bike, whether it's a genetic
Absolutely.
mountain bike, a downhill bike, an enduro bike, a cross country bike, an e-bike. I mean, e-bike sales are doing really well. There's way more people have a mountain bike than back then.
A million percent. Absolutely right. And like, high schools have race teams. I mean, the youth, it's everybody's got a mountain bike. I mean, it's mainstream now. We come from a time where it didn't exist, and now, it's just you just go to Costco and get one if you want.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. You can get it. So yeah, where's the sponsorship? So maybe that's why they're trying to develop the platform to give the exposure, but is it working? So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know how long we'll have to wait before these decisions are made. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's
Well,
going to be interesting because, team budgets always have to be, I've started to work on
yeah.
the team budget for next year, and it's kind of silly because I have to base it on just such hypothetical, um,
Yeah.
non-existent events at the moment,
Yeah. Yeah.
and just give best estimates based on historical knowledge
Yeah.
and perceived things that could shift and change that could be a potential cost, and factor it all in. And then we'll see what happens.
Cool. And just a couple more things I'd like to just get your opinion on. So,
Yeah.
we were when I was racing and you were managing the Intense team, the the US, which is a massive market for bikes, had a really good series with the Norbers.
Yep.
And Steve and Nicholas Bulio and all the top World Cup guys, they'd do the World Cups, but they'd also come over and do a Norba race
That's right.
it was going on. The prize money at a Norba was better than the World Cup, so that was um, you know uh, a good pull for the riders to earn some more money. Um, the US had big trucks. If you rode for companies like GT or Trek or whatever, they had the infrastructure to support the riders at the Norbers as well. And I see that kind of went away for a while, and now they've got the new Monster Cup. Do you think that's a step back to how the Norbers was? Do you think it'll get that momentum back and make a really good race season in the race series in the States again?
I would hope so, and I'd imagine that's a lot of the concept to do it. And it would take something like this to get the traction, get the good races going again, so that makes it desirable for people to come over and have that perspective of like, yeah, when you're getting the top World Cup athletes coming over to race in America, that's because you've got a great series going on. And so if you can, yeah, if you make it, they will come. And so, yeah, I hope for good success of that. It might take a little bit to get it going, but at least there's people out there trying to get alternatives to these other things that we have. So I wish it great success because it's well needed.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's, when you've got a really good domestic series, that's what helps develop the riders that will hopefully then go on to be World Cup champions from the US.
Yeah, if there's less than a handful of opportunities, that's a pretty rough one. That's why where I see that going, but that's kind of it. So I mean, it's like this whole World Cup structure and format could like almost make it obsolete in a way. If you bring in another strong series and stuff and get something really strong going, it could supersede it in a certain respect if it's done well.
Yeah, I hope so. And then obviously one of the last things I'd like to ask you today is obviously the World Championships is coming up soon. In
I
and
know, so exciting. So exciting.
I don't want to put any pressure or say anything to do anything, but obviously Greg one Greg spends a lot of time in Andorra. Is he based there most of the year these days?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about it. Yeah, actually, first things first, I just saw yesterday that South Africa announced their world's team and Greg's on it. So this is good. And apparently there's only two guys on it. And then I saw some conversation like, oh, why are they not filling the roster? But that's a different topic and I don't care about that. The main thing I want to say is Greg is on the national South African Federation team, which is fantastic. And not that I worried that he wouldn't be, but you never know.
Yeah.
And so this is fantastic. Greg lives 6 months out of the year. He has a home in Andorra. So yes, he spends a lot of time there. How interesting, how unique that they had a world championship in Pietermaritzburg where he lives. And other athletes have had from time to time had world championships in their backyards. And so there's another opportunity now for Greg. Well, Greg will be attending racing in the World Championships in Andorra, yet again in his backyard. So I can tell you currently at the moment, this very day, that they've got a Norco engineer over there working with Greg right now. He's heard that Andorra is going to close the racetracks from July 27th. And so he wanted to make sure, because we had wanted to do a test there, with the team sometime prior to World Champs, but we found that we could be shutting the track. So quickly we said, then this week, Greg wanted to do some testing there, and Norco sent over someone over there to work with Greg. So he's at this very moment working to hone his skills, work on the bike settings and different things to get that much closer to having a good setup for World Championships. So yeah, that's what's going on there.
Brilliant. Well, yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how Greg gets on there because he did really well there last year, and I think it's special having a race that close to where you live and everything else. So
Yeah,
and for you as well, I just hope that goes really well for you guys, and I'll
thank
be
you.
watching on the laptop.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's all if the stars align, the world will be hoping it'll be like Cavendish. Oh, and this was funny too. Okay, so we have a thing like when Greg goes up for his race, I always pack him a little shot of espresso and a banana, and I always write on the banana. I don't know, it started years ago, and I called it the manana.
Yeah.
And so I always write him a note. And so when he was in Leger, the note I wrote under it was like, be like Cav, be like Mark Cavendish.
Brilliant, brilliant.
So I will say, I'm just telling you that because that's what the maybe we can capture some of that be like Cav energy for world champs for Greg. That would be amazing.
Well, I'll be keeping my fingers crossed,
Yeah,
and
so we'll see how the stars align for that one. But hey, the opportunity's there, and so Greg will take the opportunity and he will perform to the best of his ability. So we'll see.
all right, Kathy. Well, I think we better wrap it up because I've got my parade to go to that I was telling you about earlier.
I
In the
love that. Tell Harrison have a fun time, and thanks so much for your time. It's been a pleasure catching up, and love to Maya and Michelle and everybody there.
Well, yeah, and I just want to say again quickly, thank you for everything you've done for me over the years.
Mm,
You've done so many good things for me and always been lovely.
mm,
And thank you to Chuck as well and the girls. And
mm.
I'm just super stoked to see you happy, smiling, and doing what you do best and what you love doing. And I hope that continues for as long as you want it to. So, um,
Thank you. Thank
thanks,
you. Yeah,
thanks so
it's
much
really
for your time
meaningful.
and coming
Beautiful.
on the podcast. That people are gonna love listening to your stories.
Thanks, Nigel. It's been a pleasure, and I'll see you soon.
Okay, see you soon. Love you.
Okay, bye. Love you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed that. Chatting with Kathy there was really good. As you can probably imagine, she's an amazing person, and I've got so much respect for her, and grateful for everything she's done for me, and as well as many other people in the sport. She's absolute legend, and yeah, hope you enjoy that. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Put some comments in there of other people you'd like me to try and get on the podcast. And yeah, have a great week and see you all next week. Cheers.